This is The Right Connection. This podcast is designed to help you choose the right words and stories in your business content to create authentic connections with prospects, clients, partners, and colleagues. Now the host of The Right Connection, Catherine Burrows.
Thanks, Carl, and welcome to The Right Connection. Today I chat with Transformation Maven Lisa J. Weiss. She helps her clients own the intensity that lives within, recognize the power of their words, and how they are expressed and connected to their choices, ultimately revealing their external expression of self. Listen in as we chat about the vibration of words and so much more. Hi, Lisa. Welcome to The Right Connection today.
Hi, Catherine. It's an honor to be here.
So you are Lisa J. Weiss, the woman and the company. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah, well, it's been a process of evolution as everything else. Really, it is about me presenting me and my work, because my work is me. I often say my life is my business and my business is my life, right? And there are so many layers to that conversation. So yeah, Lisa J. Weiss is now the brand.
That's awesome. And do you want to talk a little bit about that evolution or?
Yeah. So, my whole career, my whole working life has been about communications. I started off as a public relations consultant at the Montreal Children's Hospital. And then I moved to Ottawa and I did a lot of internal communications, strategic communications. And then I got into facilitation. And eventually in the last 12 years, I've been doing coaching. And so it's always been about how people communicate with themselves and others. And I was always curious about sort of the underlying things around communication. So I really call myself a process communications person, the flow of information. And when I started my coaching, it was realizing that there are so many things that sit under the surface that we're unaware of in terms of what's driving the bus, who's driving the bus. And because of my background in communications, I say words are my superpower. Because over the years, what I've discovered is words carry vibration. And vibration is the key to what's actually going on inside of our bodies. And so I've developed a process and models that help my clients to understand what's going on in their bodies from the sensory perspective. And then how the words that they're using internally and externally impact the choices that they're making every day. And so, yeah, that's kind of where I've landed now.
Well, you know that I absolutely love words as well. So this is definitely something we have in common. Tell me more about these vibrations. How does that work? How do I know what my vibrations are?
Right. So it's really cool because, we're, like I said, we use words all the time, right? From the time we were born and we're listening to words. When I was in communications and doing strategic plans and things like that, you're writing a lot of words and you're writing briefs and you're doing all kinds of things. And what I recognized was the state that the person is in when they're writing has an impact on the vibrations and the words that show up on the page. When we are in particular states, so I've developed a model, which I call the sensory identification cycle, which consists of 4 states. And the 4 states play a role in identifying where I am when I'm speaking to myself and when I'm speaking to others. And so as an example, the first state is what I call disembodied. When you're in this state, you're actually, you're not in there, right? You're hovering above yourself and watching what's going on. And the words associated with that state can be things like asking yourself, why doesn't anybody hear me? Why doesn't anybody see me? And having those conversations inside myself around, why am I not being heard? Questions and words that we use in that disembodied state. In the cerebral state, of course, we're in our heads. right? And I know that state so well, right? It's all about the words and being in my head and planning what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it. And, and so the words associated with the cerebral, very intellectual, very much a plan driven statements that we say to ourselves. And so, over the years, beginning to work with individuals to take the time to stop and notice where they are set from a sensory perspective. Am I actually in my body? Am I in my head? Am I aware, in the aware state? Am I aware of what's going on in the choices that I'm making for myself? Beginning to pay attention to these things and what's happening in my body as a result of that.
So vibrations you're talking about on an energetic level?
Completely in an energetic level. So as an example, one of the words that we use all the time, try, right? I'm going to try to do this. I'm going to try to make that appointment. I'm going to try to have this conversation with someone. We use try all the time, and we don't often think about the vibration of try has, it has an undercurrent of unable, and try can be seen as a back door. I use the word try when I don't want to actually own the choice that I'm making. I'll try to make it, even though under the surface, I'm like, I really don't want to go. Right? So we use these words. And so beginning to pay attention to, well, what if I, rather than use the word try, shift the word to maybe choose? What am I willing to choose in this moment? Do I want to go? Yes, no, or I don't know. Like those are my choices. And now I can actually tap into what feels right in my body. So when we use the word try, we're actually creating a space where we're actually numbing ourselves to the information that's moving inside of us. And when I use the word, what am I willing to choose? I'm now opening an invitation for me to discover what's my truth.
It sounds much more proactive than reactive.
Absolutely. And I think in our world as well, I don't know has become a phrase that has been unacceptable, right? And I don't know is a valid state, right? People will question, well, what do you mean you don't know? Well, in this moment, I don't know. And to give ourselves permission to actually take a breath and drop in and let the answer emerge from inside of us.
That's beautiful. Really getting in touch with who we are inside and what our purpose is.
Absolutely. And, there's so much noise that we deal with every day. And when we move through those states, right, the states are fluid, right? It's a flow. This is not about one thing or another being right or wrong. It's about noticing where I am in the moment. So, the 4 states that I was talking about, disembodied, cerebral, aware, those 3 states are the beginning points for us to notice what's going on in our body. And then it's then looking at, okay, how am I talking to myself in that? What are the words? What are the phrases that I'm saying all the time? Another one is anxiety. If you look at the word anxiety, what does that actually mean to you? What does that conjure up inside of you from a sensory cue?
Yeah, it can make you feel maybe tight, unsure of the outcome.
Right. When we take the time to notice what does that actually mean inside of me? So when I'm unsure, where does that sit in my body? Right? Is it in my belly? Is it in my head? Is it in my throat? Is it in my back? And these are all indicators for me, in the work that I do, to be able to ask different questions to my client so that they can become more aligned. So the 4th state is what I call the aligned state. And that's when I know when I'm choosing from a place where I'm in alignment with who I am with my core. And so when I say yes, I know that I'm saying yes to myself, which actually might sound like a no to you.
So what does it look like when you help clients? Could you share a client story or two just to give us an idea of how that story progresses?
Sure, absolutely. People come to me from different areas. I work with organizations and I work with individuals, and I also work with people in groups. And so there's a process that I have found that works really well in helping people to move through to get to that aligned state, to connect with their core. And so the first piece of it is getting them to connect with their body, right? To actually begin to pay attention to what's going on in their body. We use a lot of umbrella words. I feel anxious. I feel happy. I feel angry. I feel jealous, right? We have all these umbrella words. And what we're not aware of is each of those words presents differently in each person. And so I start first with, when I'm engaging in a conversation with my clients, when they say something, I get curious and I say, okay, well, where does that sit in your body? So if you tell me you're angry, like you're feeling angry all the time, I go, okay, where is that? How does anger present in your body? And it will present in different ways. So some people, it's a tightness in their belly. For some people, there's something it's in their chest. For some people, they might feel heat, in their face or throughout. And so that information gives me something. So the first piece is, let's first connect with the body. So I call that, cellular identification, right? Let's see what's happening in the cells. Once we then figure out or get people to connect with their body, then it's like, how do you engage it? How do you engage the intensity of the information that moves through your body? And there's a process for that. And it involves breath, using breath as a way to move the information so that it fills your cells, and to bring you inside yourself so that you're actually inside yourself when things are moving. Because when things become intense, we vacate, right? We do that disembodying that I mentioned before. And or we go into our heads and we start making plans or strategies and things like that. And so it becomes, how do we engage the information from a cellular perspective? And so that's sort of the second phase. And then the third phase is then what I call capacity building. And that's where the practice comes in. The practice of beginning to learn how to trust ourselves again. A lot of my clients may be aware or unaware that they actually don't trust themselves and they don't trust their body. They don't trust the cues that their body is giving them. And this is a process of what I call reclamation of self. So it's where they come back to themselves so that they can trust themselves again.
I'm sure that's a place we all want to be, where we can feel confident and proactive and empowered.
Totally. And that place of trust, my personal journey has all been about trust. Right? I didn't trust myself. I didn't trust my body. With my ex-husband, we tried to have kids for many years, and my body wouldn't do what it's designed to do. Right. And so I had this non-relationship with it. And so when I started my journey, it was really discovering how tightly wound I was. And of course, there was no space for anything to be created in that. So in my work with individuals, men and women, it is about them coming to know that they can actually come home to themselves and that they can trust themselves, right? It is building up that trust again inside themselves and trusting the cues that their body is giving them.
So you said you do a lot of one-on-one work, you do some group programs.
Some people prefer the one-to-one, and then and I find the magic really happens in the group process, because we bring in different aspects. In a group, you have different aspects of yourself that you're hearing, so you're hearing, I say to my clients, you're hearing yourself through the mouth of another person. So when something resonates, when something doesn't resonate, right? And again, as we begin to explore those sensory cues in the body, you get to discover, oh, okay, there's resistance here, or I'm aggravated here, when this person says something or does something, and to go, oh, it's not about that other person, it's about me. Right? I created this person in my world so that I could discover something more about me. This is ownership, complete ownership of I am the creator of my world, and I create every person in my world as an invitation for me to discover something new about myself. And so I often say the journey never ends. It's non-stop.
Well, it's true. We have to continue learning and growing, or else we become stagnant.
And we also, live in a culture that is adverse to change.
Yes.
Right? Change is a constant, and yet we are, we learn to be adverse to change. We learn habituation. We move through our day the same way. And so one of the first exercises that I give my clients is to change something in their morning or evening routine and notice what happens in their body. And they often come back going, oh my God, right? Because we get up, and you might get up and put the coffee pot on, or go grab a coffee, or you might read the paper, or, get on your iPad, or you might go for a walk, or, we have these routines. So you might get up and brush your teeth, like whatever it is. And I say, change one thing in your morning or evening routine and notice what happens in your body. And you begin to notice, oh my God, the resistance that's there. And going, oh, well, if it's like that for just this, how is it for everything else in my life when there's something that is going to be changing in my life?
Well, for sure. I mean, if I decide to brush my teeth first instead of second, and there's a lot of resistance, imagine what it would be like if I want to change my job or change a relationship or move from one location to another.
Right, exactly. And when we begin to notice that, because what happens is our intellect often will begin to tell us stories. I often say your intellect will lie always, because he or she likes to be the king or queen of the mountain, and your body never lies. Right? It's, that gut reaction that we have, that sense, that instinctual phrases or words that come up, which I've tested year after year after year, is never more than 4 words. When it's clear and concise and short, that's your gut reaction. You're driving on the highway and something says, get off. And you go, ugh, if I get off, I got to go through, 10 lights to get to where I'm going to go. And so you talk yourself out of it, and then you go around the bend and there's traffic.
Yeah.
And you go, oh, I should have gotten off. Right? It's beginning to learn to pay attention to that voice inside of you. But first we need to clear away the clutter. So the work is the one-to-one is powerful, and the group process I find is the most powerful, because that's where acceleration really happens, because you're engaging with different aspects of yourself so that you can discover so much more in a very short period of time.
So how would I know if I need to work with you?
Consider asking questions around, do I trust myself? And what's going on in my world where I have tried all kinds of different things and I still find myself back where I started? Because this process creates change at a cellular level. You're physically not the same person you were when the information moves inside of you and you're inside yourself. Part of that's, the engagement process of helping people to learn how to be and stay inside themselves when things seem really intense or overwhelming. That's the key. Some people daydream a lot, or some people, blank out, certain parts of their days, or you can't remember what's going on, or again, you hold a lot of intensity and you don't know what to do with it. You don't know where to go. Well, yeah, that's that's a good place to start, to maybe connect and have a conversation to see what's going on, and to get below the surface of it, because it's never about what it's about. What's presenting is the invitation for you to go deeper.
I love that idea that when we change the words in our story, we change the outcome of our story.
Absolutely. If I bring this back to, one of my experiences when I divorced from my ex-husband and I started a relationship with a new partner a few years later, I actually had to take the word relationship off the table. I had to remove it from my vocabulary because it carried such a strong vibration inside of me of a way of being. And so I had to change the word. So I changed it to being in a co-creative process, which, when I was talking to people like, what? Well, that's an interesting way of putting it, right? And I had to do that until the word relationship carried a different vibration inside of me.
That happened to me too, actually. I also have an ex-husband. And so when I was starting my relationship with my current partner, I did not want to refer to him as my husband at all. I wanted to use the word partner because to me, that felt so much more of an equal relationship, very, respectful, as opposed to the previous relationship, which wasn't so healthy or respectful. And now I use both terms interchangeably because the meaning of that word husband has changed for me now. Living in that state of being in this equal partnership for like 8 years now, it's changed.
Yeah, completely. And that's exactly to the point. Right. And you did that organically, right? There was some voice inside of you that said, oh, I don't know if you recognized when you used the word relationship, there was a sensory cue in your body, and it was probably a constrictive thing. And the word partner probably opened you up a little bit more, right? And that's what the journey is about noticing these things mindfully, consciously. Yeah, that's a perfect example.
Yeah, I definitely felt more safe and more empowering to use that word. And so then that's the word I went with, because it felt like I was controlling my story and my destiny and making it more positive.
And that is the power of words, to really begin to pay attention. And, I love this conversation because, you're a writer and you help people with their writing. When people are writing about themselves, how they feel about themselves comes through the words. So when I'm writing a blog or whatever, I have this process of closing my eyes and putting my hands on the keyboard and letting my hands just let the words flow. And it's amazing how few mistakes I make, when that happens. And so I'm writing from a different place other than my intellect. Mm-hmm. And I know that when people read the words, their eyes are seeing the words, but their body is actually feeling the vibration of the words that are coming through.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really important to do things like journaling, where you're finding out what's going on and you're asking questions and you're being open. Another thing that I like to do is to write things that are intentional. I guess you could call them like affirmations, except instead of saying them, because I'm a writer, I tend to write them because that's more powerful to me. So although I do have those moments where I'm journaling and questioning, I'm also intentionally putting certain words into my body as well.
That's such a great process of journaling. And when you're journaling, what I find, do you go back to look at what you've written afterwards, or do you write and then you leave it and then you go on to the next thing, right? Because I find that when we journal, if you go back and read, so there's different vibrations. So if you go back and read inside yourself what you wrote, that's one vibration. If you go back and read out loud what you wrote, that carries a different vibration. And then there's the bearing witness, and having someone bear witness to what you have written to yourself. which also carries a very different vibration. And so it is about each of those elicits something different in our body, which is information, which invites us to become more.
Do you have any favorite words, Lisa, that you really love the vibration of?
I guess my favorite word is has become and, because we live in a binary either or world. And is such a powerful place to stand. You know, I can be this and this. I can have this and this. I can feel this and this, right? It creates so much more space. And I think my second favorite word is willing, you know, in the form of a question. Am I willing? I carry a lot of intensity and I'm a bit of a warrior. And so my words in the past tended to be commands. I'm going to do this. I have to do this. And I also carry defiance inside of me. So when I gave myself a command, there'd be some part of me that would go, oh, really? You think that's going to happen? I don't think so. Right. And when I started using the word willing, and asking a question, am I willing? Warrior would start to come up and then go, oh, it's a question. It's an invitation, which then enabled me to be in that place of and. So I think my two favorite words are willing and and.
That's really beautiful. And I know that you've been doing some writing recently. We have a book coming out.
Yes, I'm so excited. And I'm so excited that, you know, we're in it together. Emerge, be the unmistakable authority in your field is going to be out very soon. My chapter in that book is Awakening the Leader Within. For me, the work around leader and what I'm calling leader self, as opposed to leadership, is important because it is about reclaiming that leader that lives inside of all of us. You know, we knew it as children, and then somewhere along the line, it got beaten out of us. And it's about coming back to that place of trusting that leader that lives within. And so that what I call the capital S self. Yeah, I'm so excited. I'm really excited about that. Yay!
Yeah, so we've co-authored that book with Brian Tracy and with Jane and Steve Lowell, and with about 25 other amazing leaders and thinkers and entrepreneurs.
Absolutely.
Coaches
and globally, right, from around the world, which is amazing. And it's such an amazing compilation of different people from different fields writing about the thing that, you know, they're experts in, that they have honed their craft over the years. And so, yeah, I'm so excited to be a part of that project. Yes.
And by the time this episode airs, that book will have launched. So I'll make sure I put the link to it in the show notes.
Absolutely. Yes. And so bye.
Yes, it's so worth reading. And, you know, there's definitely going to be somebody that you resonate with in that book for sure.
That's the beauty of these types of books. And because it's also a range of areas, right? You know, you're a writer, I'm a coach, different coaches, there are artists, there are people from different backgrounds and different areas of expertise. And so I'm sure that there will be many chapters that people will be able to resonate within that, because it impacts our whole life, not just one aspect of our life.
And to me, it's so beautiful to see all the people, the authors of all those chapters doing exactly what they're called to do and just doing it so well. And that's, I think, a result of those words, like you said. I mean, they've been able to identify and define what that purpose is in words, and they've written about it, and they can tell you about it if you want to have a call with them.
Absolutely. You know, and I want to give a shout out to Steve and Jane, because, they were the driving force behind this. Their work is incredible, right? In terms of helping us find the words.
Absolutely, for sure.
To define ourselves. Yeah.
They are the S&J and Stephen Jane S&J Training Solutions. Steve with his expert insights and deep thought strategy, and Jane with her 7-figure mindset coaching. Together, they're just such a powerful combination to just really elevate your business and move it into a state of exponential growth.
I like that.
Every once in a while, those words just elude me. Struggle to find the right ones.
I love it. I love it.
So thank you so much for being on The Right Connection today. Is there anything else you'd like to add? A final thought you'd like to leave us with?
Oh, this has been such a pleasure and such a great conversation. There's so much in this conversation. And so I think I'd like to leave it with an invitation for people to get curious about themselves and the words that they're using. And to just notice what's going on in your body with your words. And if it calls to you, connect.
That's great. Thanks so much, Lisa. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Catherine. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening today. I hope you found some inspiration for your creativity. Please join me next time for more about how words and stories enhance your brand to create the right connection.
Thanks for listening to The Right Connection. If you have a question for Catherine, reach out to her by sending her an email, catherine@catherineburrowscreative.com, or visit her website, catherineburrowscreative.com. And don't forget to follow Catherine on social media. Until next time, thanks again for listening to The Right Connection.